Hi everyone, and welcome to another card making tutorial. Today I'm gonna do a scene with the Merman from the Under the Sea theme bundle by Stamp Anniething. I'm also going to use the little die cuts. So here is the sped up coloring of those little die cuts. If you want more details, see this in real time. There will be links up in the right corner for the cards, or in the description for you who don't have cards, that you can go and watch those videos. There will also be links at the end of this video to those real-time coloring videos with voiceovers. So I will go in and give you some details, more details on how I'm coloring, why I have chosen the colors I have chosen, and such things. Little note is that these little die cuts are actually laser printed, so they are really nice to work with when it comes to work with the Copics. Also, the cardstock is really Copic friendly, so it's really fun to color because it blends like butter. Really fun to do these little things. I am using a combination of YG and G pens markers for these little greeneries, going over with the YG00 twice to give it a little bit more depth. And for the little stones, I'm using W0 and W4. The little kind of texture you get from we're using a very light marker on a very dark marker just adds to the dimension in the stones, and that's kind of why I've made that choice. For the little corals, is it that what it is? I'm using some oranges just because, you know, coral is some coral reds, but I wanted to go with green and orange. I really like that combination. So I'm using Y15, which is a looking like a light yellow orange, but it is a yellow, and then I'm using some YR15, which is the orange, and then you have the red that I'm using, which is an RO5, which have a little bit more of an orange tint, but by layering it on top of the Y15 it gets even more orange, and it's kind of makes it easier to blend the colors together and make them look a little bit more cohesive, but still getting kind of a very deep color, deep reddish color at the base, and then just going through the oranges out to that yellow. I kind of like that color scheme. And again, if you want to have more details on why I'm doing what I'm doing, you can find that over at those real-time coloring videos, which I hope you will enjoy. But now it's time to jump into the coloring for the Merman, which also have a real-time coloring part. So if you are interested in that, it will be where I said the links were before, up in the right corner, down in the description, and at the end of the video. So for our little Merman here, I go with the ordinary Caucasian skin that I really shouldn't use all the time, but I'm still using it because I really like the combination. It builds the way I want to build it, and yeah, because it's so light, it kind of hides the coloring mistakes I do when I do this no line coloring. I can say doing no line coloring with darker colors is really hard because you really have to think about where you add that little rim light, because the rim light is the thing that is going to give you the transfer between the dark and the light. The darker color you use, the more aware of where that rim light is you have to be. And also when you do the no line coloring technique with darker colors, the more you have to have a little bit of a certain hand when you are coloring. So I'm also adding some R30 and R32 in the mouth, on the nose and on the cheeks, just to give it a little bit more pink. I wasn't really super happy with how a lot of light it was on his head, so I went over a second time just to add a little bit more roundness to his forehead. Then I'm going over with the same colors except for the EO4. Really, I just added the EO4 in the crease down by his belly button and just underneath his cheek, Otherwise, I'm just using the other. And if you heard that sound, that was me hitting the microphone because I talk with my hands, and that happens when you talk with your hands and you have a mic in front of your face. For the eyes, I'm just using some browns, and again I go into a lot more detail in the real-time coloring video because it's just like half an hour or something. And if you think my voice is a little bit crackly, that is because I already made 2 videos already. This is the 3rd voiceover I'm doing today. My boyfriend worked night, so he is sleeping at the moment, so I thought that would be a perfect moment to doing my voiceovers so that he can take over the office again when he wakes up. But yeah, I'm continuing to color the little character. Now I'm going for the tail with some greens. I'm using the same greens that I used for the greenery in the behind it, and by doing that I have a little bit more of a cohesion between the background and the character, and therefore you get a more calmer look than if you use a lot of different colors. I did, however, add YR09 here because I felt that the YG05 and the G16 wasn't enough to build the depth. I'm using Y02 as my bottom color for the hair, just to give it a little bit more oomph. All the other colors will be laid on top, so you don't really see the Y02 as a singular color. However, it does shine through all the other ones, so the hair there got very fierce. Now this is what I was longing to do with these little images. Because they are laser printed, you can actually, by using your laminator, add some foil to them. It was a lot of fun. I used the highest setting on my laminator and let it go through. I tried doing twice. I didn't see a very big difference on how the foil added. It actually works really good on top of your Copics. I actually made a trial of that, and that video will be up sometime next week, whenever I have time to edit it. It's been busy over here. So here I just remove that foil from the pieces. I really like how it shines. It also helps to reduce that stark blackness, so they kind of fall a little bit more in the background towards the image, which I did do in the sort of no line coloring technique. I ended up actually cutting all of those little pieces, even though they are die cut. I cut them out once more because I wanted them to have the same amount of white as my characters do, and I kind of like to have that little thinner line. But it worked pretty fast, worked out really good, and now they all look the same. If you don't want to cut them out once more, you could try to cut out the characters with the same amount of whiteness that the die cuts had. Now I'm going to build a scene. These little rocky dies came with the whole Under the Sea bundle, and so did this vegetation. So I started by cutting out the rocks. I wanted them to be green at the bottom and a little blue at the top, so kind of the ocean at the top and then kind of green at the bottom. I don't know why I made them green, because the bottom of the sea is very usually brown, but I thought maybe it's just vegetation or something. I really felt like it would tie the whole green orange color scheme together. I ended up actually going over with the blue color here. I think it is the Twisted Citrus, one of the darker greens. Sorry, I actually don't have the list here. I do. The green is Lucky Clover, and the blue that I go over on the top of the Twisted Citron is actually the Tumbled Glass. Always good to write down what you have used on a separate piece of paper when you do a voiceover, then you don't have to remember them. I'm using the same greens on the greenery. However, I'm going to kind of stamp the Lucky Clover on top of it. This both because I was ripping some of these, but also it added kind of a fun texture. because you're kind of bumping on top of it. So it gets a little bit of a texture. I really like that. Also, I spray a little bit of water in my hand. I dip my fingertips in that hand, in my hand in that water, and then I kind of just do a little bit of a droplets. Everything is sped up pretty fast, so I leave it on for a couple of seconds before removing the water, just to not get it too white but still get that extra texture. I am using spiced marmalade and barn door on the corals. Was it that we call them? Corals. And I'm doing that same kind of pounced kind of thing on top of those to get the same kind of texture. Again, just slight texture to give it a little bit more life, but still not overwhelming the rest of the image, because it's going to be the background. For the blue, I'm using tumbled glass, salty ocean and blueprint sketch. Actually, I think a little bit of tumbled glass in the middle. And then I end up going over with the twisted citron on top of all of that blue, just to bind the colors together, but also get a little bit of a greenish tone to the water, because water have a tendency to be a little bit greener sometimes. And then I'm trying to do another way to give those droplets. I'm just flicking on top of the sprayer this time, and you get a lot of bigger droplets when you do that. And it looks like it's like air bubbles in the water. I thought that would be pretty cool. All of this is done on some Neenah cardstock, because I kind of like Neenah cardstock and I have a whole rim of them, so I'm gonna use that. I am layering them on top, so I have them, and I only added glue to the edges because then I can kind of just stick down everything. I'm going to add glue to these pieces that I'm sticking down, but this is me trying to figure out where everything goes, and I actually kept everything of that in here because I thought maybe you want to see that, how my thought process goes, and hopefully it doesn't. The camera does start focusing on my hand sometimes and I lose a little bit of focus, but hopefully it isn't too hard. I usually try to put it on manual focus, at least when I'm coloring, so that it doesn't go out and in a focus all the time. And then I'm going to add all of these little pieces that I foiled, trying to figure out places to place them, because I do want them to be seen. But as you see, that foil kind of tones down the black lines because they became golden instead of black, and that actually helps that no line coloring dude being kind of stand out against all the greenery. And here I have those different layers of vegetation, which gives a lot more dimension into this card. So I am using some Simon's Stamp glue. They have this little glue tube. I got it in one of the Simon's Stamp card packs that I used a couple of videos ago, and I thought I'll use it. So I added a little bit of that glue on top of a piece of paper, scrap paper. I think I actually got color on that paper, so I couldn't use it for anything else. So I'm just adding a little bit glue. Here I am again adding some more glue, and then I just dip the pieces into that glue. I'm not trying to get glue all on the pieces all over. I want all of the little fingers to kind of not being glued down, because that again gives dimension, because they are kind of holding themselves a little bit away from the background, so they are making little shadows and making like dimension into the image. It's a lot of different things that together make it kind of stand out. I'm then going in and trying to figure out where I'm going to put this, how deep I can push it down. I ended up kind of hiding that little orange piece. That happens. And then I'm going over with this, and now that orange piece kind of sort of disappeared. Almost. Sometimes that happens. I actually talked about this in the coloring video, that I should have thought about all the placements before I colored them, because then they would have more unison shadowing that they really don't have, and also I wouldn't have colored too many, or I kind of would have known how they would sit. So yeah, next time. Always next time. I always forget these kind of things. I get all swept up in the color making, in the card making. Basically, just turn on the camera and then I start making, and then I try to edit this all together to something that you actually understand. So sometimes it can be a little bit chaotic, but I'm trying to remove the chaotic parts. Okay, it's a try a little bit. And by the way, that foil is just golden Deco foil, so pretty simple. So that is the top of the card done, the main panel. I like making panels like this because then you can kind of make up things as I go. I had a couple of pieces left and I thought I didn't want to lose them, so I wanted to put them in the corner and then add the sentiment. So I started by kind of deciding that I wanted to use this Lawn Fawn celery stick ink, and then I just got a brain thing, and like, yeah, I can use a darker one on half of the stamp so that I get kind of this gradient one, and it actually worked out pretty good. So that's celery stick as the lighter color and jalapeno as the darker. And by the way, I should have used my stamp thingy so that I would have lined up that, and then I could have stamped it twice without worrying, because these the colored inks usually needs 2 stamps to get really good impression. So I do recommend using a stamp thingy of some sort when you do those. But yeah, I use a little bit of glue to add those little things in the middle. Then I'm adding some tape runner on the back of my top panel, adding that. I'm giving it a pretty decent amount, I think about 1/4 inch of white around it. And that is the card for today. I hope you liked it. If you do, please thumbs this video up. If you have any questions, just comment down below. If you have any comments, comment down below too. If you are one who are putting a thumbs down on this video, because it does happen, I would really appreciate if you tell me why you didn't like the video. Is it what I'm showing? Is it me? Is it something I can change just in case? But yeah, thank you so much for watching this whole video with me. Here are the other 2, the coloring videos, and I will see you later. Bye.